Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Michael 7 Michael, and you're watching Foodcaster. That's right, everything food. And we're going to shout out our sponsor before we begin, Sound Shark. You can go to Sound Shark Audio. And today we've got Sam Eats Plants.
Hello.
How you doing, Sam?
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah. I have a question.
You have a question? What's the question?
It's for you.
Oh, okay. What's going on?
Are you into, or do you plan on like getting into working out or fitness or running or anything like that? Is it anywhere in your scope?
Yes. Actually, you know what? That's phase 2.
Okay, cool.
You like how I did that, right? Got to prolong the laziness. No, my first thing was to definitely, and is to, rearrange this food situation.
Yes.
And then start working out.
Okay.
So, actually, it's perfect you mentioned that because I need to know kind of what I need to do to start.
Cool.
Getting in shape.
Yeah, I was asking because I was a personal trainer for many years, and at the height of like Atkins diet, where everyone's like, carbs are bad, they make you fat. And I never believed it. You know, I didn't really care one way or the other, so I kept eating the way I was eating at the time. But everyone was into it.
Right.
So when people go vegan these days, there's residues of that mentality that's still around people where there's some type of issue with carbs. I'm like, oh, there's too many carbs. And I still hear it today. And so when people want to go plant-based, they're like, oh, what am I going to do for protein? There's only carbs. I have to eat a low-carb diet. And so sometimes that could be a deterrent. But carbs are great.
They're great.
This is what I want to say.
So I can still eat my pasta. I can still have my couscous.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, couscous.
Yes.
Okay.
And potatoes.
And potatoes.
And lots of it. And fruit.
Okay.
And all that stuff.
And don't worry about it.
It's not even don't worry. It's actually what fuels our bodies correctly.
Now, if you have too much carbs, doesn't that all just turn into sugar?
That doesn't, no. If you eat too much, that turns into fat.
Turns into fat.
When you eat carbohydrates are essentially sugar, and that fuels us.
Okay.
Because the only food for our cells is glucose. Unless we're starving, and then we feed off of glycogen, but that's a whole nother situation, and no one's starving. But the only food for our cells is glucose. So, it turns into sugar that we need to run our body properly. If you eat too much of anything and you don't burn it, then that turns into fat. That's just how your body works. It almost doesn't matter what you eat. And you know what? I want to talk about some like athletes.
Okay.
Right? Because there are high-level endurance athletes out there who are high-carb vegans.
Okay.
High-carb vegans. So there's one man in particular, he's from New York, his name is Michael Arnstein. I don't know if I ever talked to you about him before. Let me know if I did, because things are running through my head right now.
I'm not too sure.
Michael Arnstein's from New York, long-distance runner. He only cares about getting faster and faster. And so he kept changing his diet just to get faster. That's what he cared about.
Okay.
And so at one point in his early 30s, he was like a regular vegan, like a regular cooked vegan. And his wife brings him this book saying, hey, honey, you might want to take a look at this. They're talking about like raw veganism. And he was like, I don't know. I think I know everything I need to know. She was like, no, check this out. He reads it, decides to start doing it. So he goes raw vegan. So all he's eating are fresh fruits and vegetables, but tons of fruits. And I'm talking about like 5,000 calories of fruits. So that's carbs, right? But this is what happened. He kept getting faster. And he had a goal of beating, like if you're a marathoner, you might already know this if you're a marathoner, the 2 hour, 30-minute mark is like the mark to beat. Like, oh, I did it in under 2 hours and 30 minutes. And that was his goal, and he was never able to do it until he went high carb, raw vegan.
Wow.
And not only did he do it, he had so much energy that he started running all the time. So typically, what marathoners are trained to believe is if you do a marathon, every mile you run is the amount of days you need to recover from it. This man started running to work every day. He worked in Midtown Manhattan and lived in like Westchester. It was 15 miles. He would run to work. At the end of his day, run back home, because that's 30 miles. He'd do that basically every day, and then do a marathon on Saturday, and sometimes do a marathon on Saturday and Sunday. He would do a marathon back to back, eating high carbs.
Wow.
Lots of carbs. Carbs all the time. Just want to emphasize that. He was eating a lot of carbs.
How healthy is that? You gotta let your body rest, no?
Clearly it's unhealthy. No one should be running 48 miles in a weekend. Like, no one should be.
Right.
But the conversation really should be, how was he able to do it? That's the conversation. How is it possible if we're told we're supposed to eat this and we need meat and we need this and we can't eat that? Then how is that possible?
Right.
And so when people come to me with this whole like carbs are bad thing, I'm like, get out of my face. Because as humans, as anthropoids, because if you classify us underneath the mammal umbrella, we are anthropoids, and then we're humans underneath that.
Now, what's an anthropoid?
So anthropoids are like humans, gorillas,
Okay.
Baboons, chimpanzees, things like that. We got these 2 arms, 2 legs. We can walk kind of on 2 feet. We have 24 feet of like intestines. There's a lot of things that are very similar. In that respect.
Okay.
And so when you look at other anthropoids in nature, because it's hard to look at humans that way so much, because a lot of us are modernized now. So if you look at other anthropoids in nature, their diets tend to be about 70 to 80% from carbohydrates.
Oh, wow.
That's their diet. So this is what makes like the silverback gorilla incredibly strong and big and powerful. 70 to 80% of his diet or her diet is from carbohydrates, from plant matter, from raw plant matter that are carbohydrates. So the question really is, and this is the argument that I get, oh, well, we eat meat now and this is what developed our brains, and so we have evolved to handle it. No, because we did not evolve to have intestines that look like a wolf's, and we did not evolve to have teeth like a wolf, and we did not evolve to have our jaw open and close like a wolf or a cat. We haven't. Nothing has adjusted inside us except for one thing, to be honest, one thing. We started to develop this enzyme called pepsin. It's the only enzyme that really is adept at breaking down protein that is from animal matter, because plant matter doesn't have a complete protein, they have amino acids, so it's different. And that, I think, is an environmental evolution over the centuries and centuries and millennia. Other than that, nothing else has changed. So 24 feet of intestines when you're eating something that has no fiber, because what moves our bowels down is fiber. 24 feet of intestines when you eat something that has no fiber, like flesh, means it sits there. Takes a really long time to come out, and sometimes it just sits in a corner and it can be there for years.
Yeah, someone told me that, you eat a burger or a steak, it could just sit there and rot. Is that true?
Exactly. So let's take a steak, right? And so what is the temperature of our bodies? It's like 98.6.
The singing group.
That's 98 degrees. Exactly. That's like our human...
Or is that a fever?
No, that's not a fever.
It's not a fever?
That's not a fever.
You ain't hot. That's what y'all was trying to say.
Fever has to like kind of be around 100. But like 98 something degrees. That's the human body's temperature. So let's take a piece of meat, right?
Right.
Follow me on this.
I'm with you.
Make a room 98 degrees. Let it sit there for 3 days.
Oh, wow, gross.
Okay. That's still happening in our body, though.
Wow.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
That's nasty. Thank you for putting that in my mind.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
But understand that's what's happening in our body. So however that meat is going to smell, putrefy, all that stuff, that's happening in here. When people have flatulence and it smells awful, it's not because it's normal. It's because you have rotting food in your gut.
Gross.
I swear. I swear.
Subway stories.
Yeah, even that changes when you change what you put in your body. So no, we are carbohydrate creatures. Our bodies are completely made for carbohydrates.
Now, are there good carbs and bad carbs? Or all carbs are created equal?
Okay, so I said this before, where to me, there's nothing that's good or bad. Everything falls on a scale, right? That's one. Second, the only thing that could be considered like a negative carbohydrate to me is something that's highly processed, like potato chips, pretzels, things like that. That I'd be like, no, bad.
Okay.
No, thank you. It's too much oil, rancid oil, full of salt, preservatives in a package, can be around for like decades. No, that's no good. Twinkies, I don't think so. No. But potato, that's wonderful for many reasons. It's full of vitamins. It gives you great energy. It has tons of fiber, a lot of vitamin C, really helps move things through your gut. Even brown rice, less digestible than potatoes, but wonderful, full of minerals and vitamins. We have things like carrots that are high in carbohydrates, and fruits, which are wonderful. So these are all the foods we would need to think about when we actually think about carbs. So a lot of times people will say, oh, I stopped eating carbs and I lost this weight, or I stopped eating carbs and I feel so much better. Those assessments are true for two reasons. One, you stop eating carbs, you will definitely lose a lot of weight in the first 2 days because you'll be dehydrated, because you need carbohydrates to hydrate your body. So once you get dehydrated, and water weighs a lot. So once you get dehydrated, you're going to lose a lot of weight on the scale. Two, yeah, you could probably feel a lot better when you get off of carbs, because what you're getting off of, because we're in America. I know most of us are not just eating like potatoes and rice at home with like maybe some beans. No, we're eating donuts and cookies and pizza. That's what we're eating.
I don't like the way you said pizza.
That's a personal problem. But that's what we're eating. So when people get off carbs, what are they getting off of? They're getting off of that. We're not talking about people who are just eating real food and cooking all the time.
So you're getting off the junk.
You're getting off the junk. And then what you're left with is like meats and veggies. And a lot of people start eating more veggies if they go off of carbs, because they have to make up something. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they can feel better for sure for months after. Give it 2-3 years. Things change. Things change. Your hormones start going out of whack. Your hair starts getting extremely oily. Might start falling out. Kidney issues, liver issues. This is like,
because you're not holding that water that you need.
You're dehydrated. Also, you're eating too much animal protein. Because if you're not eating carbohydrates, what else can you eat that can give you enough calories? It's going to be meat, dairy. Nothing else has enough calories to do that.
Okay.
So it'll be meat and dairy. And what happens when you eat a whole lot of meat and dairy, or you're eating a lot of hormones from other animals, so it interferes with your hormones, which is what ends up giving anyone that's been around people who are on Atkins, mood shifts are apparent. They're moody. They're moody because their hormones are like, they're being played with, they're being toyed with.
And their face is leathery.
I don't know if their face is leathery. Their face looks different though. On it for a couple years, their face, I used to work with them. And sometimes they start having a smell. Because what you end up eating mostly are animal stock products. So, I mean, if you eat a lot of garlic or curry, you can smell that coming off of someone's body. Same with other things, including meat. Meat has a smell that will come out.
Wow.
And you can start smelling a certain type of way. You can't do it long term, you're going to have real health issues.
Wow.
Carbs are great. Eat carbs. Eat carbs. Eat carbs.
So what about wheat versus whole wheat? Can you break that down?
Sure.
Which are all carbs?
Those are all
Pasta.
mostly carbohydrates.
It's mostly carbohydrates.
What I will also say is,
I love pasta. Tell me something good.
Pasta's fine.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
That's something good. What I'm going to say about all plant food, all plant food has carbohydrates, fat, and protein. All of it does. So when people talk about carbs and they say, I'm getting off of carbs, so they're getting off of potato, but they're eating vegetables. Vegetables have protein, fat, and carbs too. The only thing that is just one stuff, meat has fat and protein, and dairy has fat and protein. Neither of them have carbohydrates. Other than that, every other food that we eat, all the plant foods, they have all three. So that's one thing I want to say. With wheat, there seems to be a real American issue with wheat. So if we ignore that issue, so I'm going to talk as if we don't have a growing process in America that's causing health issues. So I want to talk as if we don't have that.
Okay.
True, things should be a whole grain. So you don't need it to be de-shelled, de-germed. This is what it means. De-germed and then bleached. That's how you get white rice, and that's how you get white bread. The reason why they do all that stuff to begin with, it has a longer shelf life. That's why they started.
Okay.
If you keep the germ in the bread, then it's real food. And mold wants it, and bacteria wants it, and animals want it because it's real food. When you take it out, they don't want it as much.
Oh.
They don't want it as much. You can do experiments. I'm sure you might have seen it, like when people take like a fast food hamburger and fries and they leave it out for like months to see how it molds, and then they take like real food and like the quick and the hamburger and fries will be around for like 8 months and there's no mold on it.
Wow.
Yeah. If mold won't even eat it, we shouldn't be eating it. Like, clear sign. Clear sign. It will be 8 months, not a thing. Anyone that has a car, who grew up with their parents having a car and took them to get French fries from one of these places, and you drop fries in the car, you find it, like, months later in a hot car, looking just the same. I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. We've seen it in the corners of the chair. There's no mold on it.
What if you're the only messy kid? How about that?
Still, my point is...
No, but that's true. Yeah, I mean, didn't think of it that way before. If mold won't eat it, why should I eat it?
Absolutely. Same like, slightly off topic, but you can try it with margarine too, which is not real food. Like butter is real, but margarine's not.
Right.
And you leave it out, like outside. Ants won't eat it.
Wow.
They won't eat it. So this is things to think about. They know better than us.
Obviously, clearly.
They know better than us. So definitely eat carbs. I think some people might be like worried about carbohydrates and like being fit though, and athleticism. And so there are, scientifically it seems like eating a high carb diet for endurance athletes at least is the supreme way of eating for performance.
In Men's Health, I believe, if I'm quoting this right, and if not, anyone that reads Men's Health, or Men's Health in particular, I'm sorry. Forgive me if I got this wrong. But if you eat too much pasta, that affects men sexually. Is that true?
I think if you eat pasta drenched with oil and cheese, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's that cheese and the oil that...
Yes. Because those clog arteries, clogging capillaries.
Wow.
Creating erectile dysfunction.
Reducing the blood flow.
Reducing the blood flow. Yeah. No, just eating just pasta, no, it doesn't do that at all. Wow. It's usually what you put on. Same thing when people say, oh, I don't eat carbs anymore and I feel so much better because you stopped eating junk. Really, you have to be very careful about the whole story when they say things like that. Because most people don't just eat pasta.
Right, no, you have all the sauces and the type of sauce makes a big difference. If you get tomato sauce versus
Alfredo.
Which Alfredo is the bomb, but changing my life.
I used to love Alfredo. The thought of it, I'm like, bleh,
really?
Bleh,
wow.
Bleh.
Can't relate, but
one day, hopefully, one day.
I'm working on it.
Even if you use marinara, a lot of people use meatballs.
Right.
And so they're associating this pasta thing
with something else.
With everything else
part of the addiction.
On top of it. Yeah. For sure.
Brainwashing.
No,
but it's cultural too. I get it. Yeah. You know, if your family's been doing this for 100 years, 300, whatever it be, it's kind of hard to break away from that. But this is where you could have the vegan, take the beans and make it look like the balls, and then you have the pasta,
Absolutely.
and then,
The only issue is in people's minds because of misinformation and because of how it's been spun. A lot of people can't get off this idea that there's something wrong with things that are high in carbohydrates. Like, they're still kind of stuck on it. And I even see it in the vegan restaurant where I work, where the people come in and say, well, what do you use as protein? And I'm looking at them, and I have to, my two selves say, one says,
right.
do I tell them where they're wrong? Or my other self says, or do I tell them what they want to hear? And this is like the struggle.
Right.
And so if I tell them where they're wrong, I say, everything has protein.
Right.
That's what I really want to say. Everything has protein, and a high protein diet leads to disease. This is what I really want to say. Or sometimes I just say,
or a high protein diet, but high protein animal based diet.
It's almost impossible to have a high protein plant based diet.
Oh, really?
I mean, if we think about it, the highest percentage of protein in any plant food are vegetables. So let's take celery. What I'm about to say is not exact, so please don't then say, oh, it was wrong.
Right.
Celery might be about 43% calories of protein, maybe about 45%
somewhere around there
calories of carbohydrates, and like tiny bit of fat. So in the vegetable kingdom, you'll find percentages of almost up to 50% calories from protein. But how many calories are actually in the celery? They're tiny. There's very little calories actually in celery. If you understand what I'm saying. So no, if you're eating a completely plant-based diet, it is incredibly difficult. You can't have a high protein diet. It's almost impossible. Nuts are mostly fat. I think almonds are the least fatty nut, and they're like 55% calories of fat, and they're like the least fatty. And some people consider nuts a protein food. And I'm like, protein where? Yeah, there's protein in it. Tons of fat. Macadamia nuts are over 90% fat. Over 90% fat macadamia nuts. Like, nuts are fatty. And so this is what happens. So people are like, okay, vegan protein, beans and nuts. Okay, beans are 80% carbohydrates, and nuts are 50% or more fat. What are you talking about? So there is no way to have a high protein plant-based diet, and you're better off for it. Because if not, you're going to run into health issues. You're going to run into health issues.
So the magic word is carbs.
That is, yes. If I can shout it from the rooftops.
The magic word is carbs.
If only I can make people understand.
I got to use the Sound Shark microphone. The magic word is carbs. I always wanted to do that. So I like radio.
This is what's going on. This is the real deal. So,
wow.
Yeah, and I wish, I don't know how to say it. I have so many people who are scared of it too, and I work with people who are sick or who are diabetic. They're like, oh, I'm not supposed to eat carbs. I'm like, listen to me. You need to get off the fat, eat more carbs, and you will see. And like some of them are really timid about.
Now, what are they eating?
changes.
Are they eating the chicken and the meat?
They're eating what the American Diabetic Association diet tells them to eat, which is very little carbs, full of meat, and little vegetables. Not little, and some vegetables. And so all they get are more and more symptoms of diabetes.
Wow.
Which is what I try to let them know. I'm like, listen. And I usually tell them, give it 6 weeks, because I know it's going to take less than 6 weeks. And I do, and I'll get the emails later and the phone calls or the text messages saying, oh my gosh, I woke up and my blood sugar was only 93. I know.
Wow.
I know.
Right.
I'm happy you listened to me, though. I know that's going to happen. I know how our bodies run, how our bodies are made.
However, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. So, carbs are great. I'm not one to ever promote doing low carb. It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, there is the keto diet, and there are ways to do a keto diet that are vegan. That's when you eat a whole lot of fat. Okay. But until I see more information, I don't know if I'm going to really. Yeah,
it was I saw a very interesting thing, and they were talking about the keto diet and how they had some cases where kids were autistic. And they saw some semblance of recovery.
Oh, wait. So just like how you said pasta, and I'm like, oh, well, we have to look at the whole story.
Right.
Okay. So
Same thing. Same story.
Same thing. Because a lot of the times when you take certain things out, there is a real connection with gluten and autism.
Oh.
So if you put someone on a keto diet, they're already not eating that. They already take them off of it. The question is, do they need a keto diet to get those same results? Or do they only just need to get off of gluten?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Also, I believe the keto diet, I don't know if it's like the paleo where you don't eat dairy, but even paleo, which will have great results too on things like that, the three main food items that seem to help people reverse the symptoms of autism is getting off of gluten, getting off of dairy, and getting off of canned foods. Or like anything that has like citric acid, lactic acid, like foods like that. And those are the people that seem to see a reverse in the symptoms. And at the same time, if their child mistakenly has something that was from a can or was a processed juice, it's like the symptoms come like roaring back for a whole 24 hours. Oh,
wow.
Yes. There are anecdotal stories about that where you could find it. It's like all over the internet. And people who like film their child.
So between the gluten and the fructose corn syrup.
And the dairy. Yeah, when it comes to autism. There's other things with autism though, but yeah. Usually also with autism, it's off topic of carbs. What they used to do is they would...
We'll do a show on that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do a show on that.
We'll save that for later.
Yeah, we'll save that for later.
Yeah, but
someone's like, no, you stop.
But yes, please eat the carbohydrates. They make everything run better. You have more energy. You sleep better. You're more awake during the day because fat is hard to digest and protein is also hard to digest. Carbs aren't. They digest quickly. That's why you have more energy. That's why this man can run marathons every day the way he was doing it. He wasn't mixing anything with oil. He's raw vegan, you know. Carl Lewis also a vegetarian when he got the gold medal.
I didn't know that.
He was vegetarian, yeah. He's vegan now, but he was vegetarian when he was in the height of his
He was eating
career.
that cheese.
I would assume, but I don't know. I've never heard him do a real interview. I think, but maybe not, because people who are into athletics tend to really be into whatever they think their diet's supposed to be.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know. Also, the American powerlifter who went to the last Summer Olympics and made the Olympic world record in powerlifting, whatever, clean and snatch. I don't do powerlifting. I don't even know the vernacular. He had been 2 years vegan. He had been powerlifting for years. And 2 years before that Olympics, he went vegan and lifted the heaviest he ever lifted. And that's not an endurance sport. That's a strength sport.
Well, I definitely want us to talk about autism.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to talk about working out, like in the midst of it, and repairing the muscles.
Yeah, sure.
I think that'll be good. But for right now, what is your social media?
You can find me at Sam Eats Plants on Instagram and fighting the good fight on Twitter.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? Every time you say that, I want to say, and she does. Eat plants. All right. You're watching Foodcaster. I'm Michael 7 Michael. Thank you very much. And again, please talk to your doctor, your nutritionist. You can contact Sam, and she could give you nutrition advice.
Absolutely.
Because she's a nutritionist.
Sure.
And enjoy the journey. Enjoy food.
Yes.
Just make sure that it's good food so it can be good to you. You know what I'm saying? Just don't eat any and anything. You're watching Foodcaster. Michael 7 Michael. Thank you, and enjoy the journey.